come woodworking at a grocery store, and I'll never forget a storm. You had the big windows, and you could see the storm that was coming at us. And it didn't think anything about it, but it got dark really, really fast, and the rain came really, really fast. And then this weird thing happened where carts started flying across the parking lot because of the wind. And then you realize, pretty sure this is a tornado, and we shouldn't be standing at a window looking at it. So we all fled to the aisles, and everybody, customers in the store. It was mass chaos, right? So we're all going different directions. And then the power goes out, and it's pitch black dark in the middle of Bilo. And so I'm thinking, this is the moment that we get robbed, right? This is it. And they don't pay me enough, so anybody, it's free for all. Get what you need, go. I'm in the frozen aisle in the middle of this blackout, and I'm telling you, everybody became useless in that moment because we are in the dark. One lady grabbed my arm and said, "Son, are we safe? Are we okay? What do we do?" And I said, "Ma'am, I'm in the frozen food aisle holding a DiGiorno pizza. I'm not capable to tell you what we're supposed to be doing right now, right? I'm just a bag boy." And then one thing happened that I remember the most. It was the smallest light changed everything. Our manager pulled out his flip phone. Remember the flip phones? He pulls it out, and it was just enough light where people kind of calmed down all of a sudden. And everybody could see a little bit. It just knew that there was a little bit of light in the room. The screen was just the size of, it felt like a stamp, and it was barely bright enough to even read a text. But in that moment, it lit up. People calmed down. People were fine. One tiny, underpowered light cuts right through the darkness. One little tiny, unimpressive light cut through the darkness and changed the entire grocery store aisle. Brought peace. You know, it's funny because darkness feels powerful until light shows up, doesn't it? It thinks it's powerful, and when the light hits it and shows up, everything changes. And that is the Christmas story. That is what we find in Bethlehem over 2,000 years ago, is this light has come. Christmas is God's way of saying to us is that you don't have to find the light. The light came looking for you. It came to you. Look what John says in John chapter 1. He starts out with these words. He says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." He was with God in the beginning. All things were created through Him. It says, "In Him life, and that life was the light of men, and the light shines in the darkness, and darkness cannot overcome it." He says, "The true light gives light to everyone who is coming into the world. But to all who did receive Him," listen to this, "to all that did receive Him, He gave them the right to be called the children of God." This is the way John starts his letter. These words are written to real people who are walking through real darkness in their lives. It was a hard season that these people have found themselves in underneath a Roman occupation, have found themselves so far from God. We're longing and waiting on this Messiah. And John pens these words, and he's writing not poetry, but he's writing to people who are tired, people who are afraid, people who are just trying to make it through the day. Am I talking to anybody? He's trying to get through the day. They're living in darkness and don't even realize that there is a great light. We got to be careful because sometimes we go to what we think is light and it's just not light. But there's one true light. And John says, "Listen, I know you're tired. I know you're afraid. I know it's hard, but I want to tell you, there is a light. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and now the Word was God, and God is here dwelling among us." I think that there's something true about every single one of us here tonight. And if we're honest with ourselves, we would admit that there's something is broken in all of us. Something broken. And sometimes we have a hard time admitting that when we're broken or when we're suffering or when things are not right. We have a hard time admitting it. But Jesus came for the broken. For some people, the darkness is loud. For others, the darkness may be silent. It can come in forms that looks like a loss. It can look like broken relationships. It can be bad news. It feels like pressure. It can feel like anxiety. It can feel lonely. This loneliness that you feel like you can never speak out loud. It comes in all forms. There's brokenness and darkness in all of us. And here's what's really scary. We're professionals at hiding darkness. We're really good at it. We have learned how to smile over our darkness. We have learned to decorate over our darkness. We distract ourselves from it. But notice what John doesn't say. John doesn't say the light shines once the darkness clears. No. He says the light shines in the darkness, period. Darkness doesn't get to say what light does. It doesn't. And John is saying, like, darkness doesn't disqualify you or me from God. So if you're here and you feel like, I hear what you're saying, but you don't know my past, you don't know what I've done, you don't know the things that are going on in my life, and I would tell you, that doesn't disqualify you from the love of God. Because your darkness will be penetrated by light. And he's like, man, this is actually the reason that we came. God came because we are all broken. We all have broken pieces. You know, one thing about broken pieces is you can take crayons and break them, but they still color. They're still beautiful, make beautiful masterpieces with broken crayons. And this is the good news of Christmas, that Jesus doesn't wait at a distance for you to escape your darkness. He steps into your darkness. So if you don't hear anything that I'm saying tonight, hear me. Jesus came anyway. He came anyway. Despite what you may feel, despite thinking you're not good enough, Jesus came anyway. He knew what you were going to do. And still on the cross, when he would live this life for 33 years, and then they're going to hang him to a tree, even in that moment, he's praying for the forgiveness of us. With the very breath. And I think that this is an important thing to note, is that even though we're broken, Jesus, it did not stop him from entering into our darkness. I want to show you what it looks like. I think this is one of the clearest pictures of what God does for us. When our kids were little, Alice and I went through this season that a lot of parents know very well. It's the when your kids get up in the middle of the night stage. Anybody there? Okay. Anybody with newborns? You know what I'm talking about? Teenagers, they don't, just kidding. They stay up until midnight and then they sleep until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Unless it's Christmas morning, then they're up by 5:30, right? So we go through this season that a lot of parents know. It's the middle of the night wake up. It's not loud. It's not like filled with tears. It's not I had a nightmare, so I'm sprinting to mom and dad's room just screaming my head off because I'm scared. I'm talking about those quiet, the shaky, half asleep kinds where they wake up. You know, those are the ones where it's just like fear whispers instead of shouts to them. They're the nights when Alice and I would wake up because we would hear the little faint pitter-patter of feet down the hallway. And when we opened our bedroom door, there they were. They were just standing there in the dark. They were not crying. They were not calling out. They were just standing there, just these tiny little silhouettes in a hallway, trying to be brave. But their little bodies were just trembling. And they didn't have the words to say what was wrong or why they were out of their beds. They didn't know how to explain the fear. They didn't know what they needed. So they just stood there, hoping that someone who loved them would come along and pick them up. And the moment that we would open our door and step towards them, that moment that they saw us, their fear melted, their shoulders would drop, and the tears would begin to come out. And they'd run straight into our arms like we were the safest place in the world. You know, nothing in the hallway changed. There's nothing there. The darkness didn't leave, but everything felt different because someone who loved them stepped into the hallway. Stepped into the hallway. That's Christmas, everybody. It's It's not humanity climbing its way to God. It is God stepping towards humanity. It's not us fixing ourselves, but God finding us in the darkest places that we don't even know how to talk about. And Christmas is God opening the door of heaven and stepping into our hallway and saying, listen, son, daughter, I am right here. You don't have to be afraid anymore. When Jesus steps into that hallway, he brings light. It transforms. John goes even further. He makes this really bold claim, and it kind of sounds reckless. But John says this in verse 5. He says, the light shines in the darkness. And the darkness, you ready, has not overcome it. It has not overcome it. John is saying that there is nothing that could overcome him. Did you get that? There's nothing that can overcome. There is no amount of sin in your life that can overcome him, but his light will overcome you. There's nothing. If Jesus was the gift that satisfied our sin, how could he not be satisfied in you? Right? He paid the price for us. And so John's saying there's nothing that we can do that will overcome him. But you know as well as I do, darkness tells a different story, doesn't it? It tries to write a different narrative. It'll tell us that, oh, I know you think that 2025 was bad, and you're going to start 2026 with this whole new mentality, and everything's going to be great, but it's not, because you're the same old you. You're an awful person. You know, you're nothing's going to change. The year's not going to look any different. Y'all fight those voices? You have those moments where it's like you're just too far gone. Sometimes we'll sit in a church service and we want to worship, and we won't raise our hands because the devil, when we're sitting there trying to sing, all of a sudden it'll hit us like that one moment, that one thing that we've done wrong, the one thing we can't quite shake, and suddenly we'll just kind of put our hands down and be silent because he takes his worship, our worship to God from us, because we feel unworthy. That's the darkness. Darkness will lie to you. How many of you know the devil will preach you a sermon if you'll give him your attention? He knows the Bible. Do you know that? He knows it. But there's a difference. The demons believe, and there are a lot of people that believe in Jesus. But what separates us from demons is we put it into practice and we live transformed lives. There's a big difference. Darkness loses because darkness has a fatal flaw. It cannot defeat light. Anytime light comes into darkness, what happens? It's light, right? It exposes everything. And Jesus didn't come to decorate the darkness. Let's use this term. He came to destroy the darkness. He came to get rid of it. And he empowered his people, his church, to be gospel carriers, to live a life that the light shines through us into a broken world. And I think this is where it becomes super important, because the light came for everyone. I mean, the shepherds were told this. Good news of great joy I bring you. It's good news for all people. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is. Jesus came for us to have a relationship with us, to restore that which was broken. And so the light comes from everybody. And notice, he doesn't force the light on people, but he waits for you to respond. John says this. I love this verse. It says, to all who received him, to all that accepted, to all that surrendered to him, he gave, you ready? The right to be the children of God. In other words, he's adopted us to be his sons and his daughters. The God of the universe has given us all rights and privileges to be his children. We have been adopted. And you're thinking, how in the world would I be adopted? Do you know who I am? That God wants to call me a son? He wants to call me a daughter? Yeah, he does. We are all invited into the light. Doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter what you've done. Doesn't matter where you are. There's an invitation. There's an invitation to step into a light and live the life that Jesus has called us to live. He says in John 10:10 that I have come that you may have not just life, but you may have abundant life, life to the fullest. If you just believe. That word in the Greek language is pisteuo, which means it's all in. Everything about me. I fully surrender to the lordship of Jesus. And see, receiving doesn't mean cleaning yourself up. It means opening the door. It means pausing. Because Jesus is not forcing his way in. He's not going door to door kicking him in. He's just standing there and he's waiting. Let me just say, if you've walked into this place tonight and you're carrying darkness, I just want you to know this. God sees you. And he doesn't just see you, he cares. And he wants to step in to your life. He wants to bring light into those situations. He wants to bring salvation to you. See, Jesus is just standing there waiting for us to receive. He didn't wait for you to find him, light came for you. And if you want his forgiveness, his peace, and a new beginning, then you receive him. And here's the good news, everybody. We don't receive him because we have to earn something, or we got to do this long checklist of things, or we got to fix ourselves before we can come to God. We come to him by trusting Jesus. Romans 10, verse 13 tells us that for everyone, I love that because in the original language of the scripture, everyone means, you ready? Everybody. Everybody that's breathing. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved or rescued. That is a promise. And here's what I love about promises of God. They come without expiration dates. When God says it happens, you can take it to the bank. That is a done deal. And he says that anybody who calls on his name will be rescued. Rescued from sin, rescued from darkness. When you turn to him, this is what happens. Your sin is forgiven. Your shame is lifted. You're no longer alone because you become a part of the family of God, living in light. Paul will go on to say in Ephesians, walk as children of the light. You don't need perfect words. I'm going to ask this right now. If you just bow your heads. I don't want to walk away from this moment without offering the salvation of Christ. You don't need perfect words. If that's you tonight, you came to this place, it's heavy, and you're like, man, I hear you. And you're just standing in the hallway, confused, lost, not knowing what to do. Would you pray these words to me, with me? It's just an honest prayer. Just say, Jesus, I trust you. I turn from my sin, and I receive your forgiveness in your life. God, I need you. God, I need you. If you've prayed that prayer, I want you to hear me. We want you to take your next step. We want to walk with you. We want to help get you connected to the life of the church, get you on a discipleship pathway to help grow. But in that moment, your darkness, the light has come into your life, and he's here in this moment. So God, I pray right now for people, no matter where you're speaking to different people. You're speaking in different ways. And I pray right now, God, that you would continue to work in their lives, speak in their lives. God, that you brought them here tonight for purpose, for reason. And we thank you so much that tonight we can have the hope and the promises that although the world may be a dark place, that every place that we take it, we take our light that lives in us, that place becomes a little bit brighter. And I thank you tonight for the ones who have made the decision. They have surrendered their lives to you. They've trusted you. That tonight the light of heaven got a little brighter here on earth. And I pray these things in your name.